Good evening. I'd like to call to order the budget meeting for May 6, 2021. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here tonight, and everybody at home and guests that are going to be speaking tonight. Bob Miller, if you would like to go ahead and get right into it. You are muted, Bob.
Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is unmute. Second thing I'd like to do is make sure we're all in the same version. So on the general fund, make sure at the very top of the page in the title, it has a V7. Everybody got that? On the other funds spreadsheet, you should have a V5. Everybody happy? All righty. What I'd like to do next is just go down and mark any changes we had since the last meeting with updates.
Okay.
The first one, we'll start with the general fund. The first one will be on page 1. Contributions, reserve debt retirement. I forgot that we have the reserve for the fire station 1. So we'll pull $95,000 out of there every year to pay the principal. That's where that came from. The next change.
Bob, can you explain that more? I don't know if I understand that.
What that is we have a reserve fund from the Huntington loan. So we received the cash, and that's been put in reserve to make the payments. So what we're going to do is we'll withdraw $95,000 every year out of that reserve.
I think that makes sense then.
Yep. The next change is on page 5, line 116. What this is if we spend $750,000 from the ARPA money, we're required to have a single audit. So we'll have to go through another audit. And that's what that's reserved for.
Hey, Bob, while we're at finance, are we going to put in for the $1,000 that we're going to give you, or is that going to come out of this fiscal year?
Oh, good question.
I didn't know if we figured that yet.
It would be next fiscal year.
Next fiscal year?
Yep, let me double check that. It's column AA113. So let me go over there real quick. Yeah, that'll be next fiscal year.
Okay, but you do have it figured?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next change will be on page 11, line 327, between 327 and 328. What I'm doing here is just moving that loan principal for the fire station, moving it to building and grounds. Before it was in capital outlay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next change is page 19, line 561. I'm sorry, line 525. Line 525. This was just pulling out the mowing local roadways, dust control, excess grade all, pavement marking, and subdivision SAD projects. pulling out of roads and setting up their own line item.
Good.
Paul, that was
Page-
one of my, yeah, it'd be page 20. Paul, that was one of my questions. Is that how that is? I forget, I had it on the other form. We had knocked that down to 300, but is that all figured correctly? And is that 360 road maintenance and plus the 23 plus the 40, or is the whole thing 360 and then it's broken down? Because it says 300 plus 150. That's why I was just like, I don't know if is how you're seeing that, is that correct?
The total of them all will be 450.
Okay.
I don't think we'll need that much.
That's what I thought you were figuring when you knocked it down. I thought you were figuring in some of those.
The total projects, the total monies that we're gonna need, and Bob, I gave you the information from the road commission or from Manick and Smith, is $260,000. And that includes the dust control, access grading, pavement marking, and subdivision SADs. We rounded it up to 300.
So is it those things like the breakdowns of line 525 plus, or like 300,000 minus those, and then that would be your road maintenance line? That's what my question was. So you would make that, maybe that line would be 200,000, and then you would leave the rest broken down like that?
Trying to find my
That's-
road maintenance.
That's what it looks like with the 260 plus. If you add all those other ones, you're right there close to that 360, 870, give or take.
Yeah, that's how I had understood it at the last meeting. That's what I thought, but I wasn't positive. If you're looking, it's not 360 plus all those things, you would have maybe your whole total 360
So-
that.
Our total on paper, and Bob, you have the road paper with you.
I have all the notes here.
Okay,
I
so
haven't dug it out yet.
Our total road projects plus the items Bob put in here, mowing, dust, access, pavement, and SADs, is 260. So we were gonna round that up to 300.
Okay. What I'll do is the combination of all six of those lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, all six of those lines will equal 300,000 when I'm done.
Okay, that gives us a good push, and it covers the expenses. And just so everybody knows, well, we'll get into roads, but I believe Miss Janzak and Miss Hirschberger and I talked about the issue with moving the Adler Road money to next fiscal year. We decided to just put it in the road maintenance fund now, pull the money out of this fiscal year, this budget year now, put it in that fund, and that way, if it does happen either or, it doesn't matter. We just pull out of that fund.
How much is that?
160.
Okay, so then
If it ends up being 170, we have enough in roads either way to cover it at either fiscal year.
so I think it's right then.
No, because that wouldn't be in this line item, dude. That's in a total separate fund.
Oh, and
160.
okay, so then, yeah, I would think you would take 160. Again, to clarify, Bob, I think the Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, the mowing local roadways, that is, you do need 23,000 for mowing local roadways, correct? That number is not
Yes.
incorrect, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so those six don't need to equal, those six lines are fine. I think
Yes.
what you need to do is take the 360 and drop that down to 100 or 200.
Because
No,
the 5 line items equal 104,130.
Yeah.
yeah, I would take that 360 to 260.
And that puts you at a total of 364,130 then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to do that. Or we could go, drop it down to 230 and leave it 330.
Make a call. Make a call. Do you think it should be?
Do that, Bob. Drop it down. Drop the 360 to 230. And then with 104 added, that gives us a good solid number, I think.
Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I made a change. We're reducing it by 130,000. So on line 525, we'll say $230,870. If I take that and add all the other lines below it, you'll have a total of 335,000.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, Bob, why don't we get that out of the way?
Parks?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that. Sounds great. Let's go to line 637. That's where the parks will start. Great, thank you.
Yes, how you doing tonight?
Okay, on line 638, I had several requests to bump that down to 150,000 for the contribution to the park. At this point, we can now switch to other funds spreadsheet. That'll start on line 145.
That's page 5.
Page 5, I'm sorry. So we're bringing over that 150,000. Chaz also noticed the rental revenue for cell tower, line 156, should be 26,000. So we're going to bump that up another 6,000. If we make those changes, they will have total revenue of 206,000 and some change, total expenses of $288,910. That means they will have overspent 82,000, which will bring their ending fund balance down to 27,993, which is dangerously low. My suggestion at this point is to drop revenue or drop expenses in the range of around $73,000 to bring them back to a stable fund balance. This is where you take over, Chaz.
Okay, what do you want from me?
Did you have a chance to look at what your thoughts might be of the $73,000?
Yeah, I did, and unfortunately, we weren't able to come up with any easy places to remove that money from.
Okay,
So
I have a couple suggestions if you want me to run through them.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, line 173, office supplies.
Yep.
Let's drop that $200.
Sure.
Line 176. Let's drop that $1,500.
Drop it 15 or make it 15?
Drop it 15.
Okay, so make it 1,000.
New total will be 1,000.
Sure.
Line 178, contracted services. Let's drop that 10,000. Line 180, janitorial services, portable toilets. I'm not sure why we had that at 13,000 when you're spending generally around the last 2 years anyway, around that 5,600 and the 7,300. So let's drop that 4,000. That'll give you $9,000. Down to line 188, property taxes. We'll drop that 900. The reason it was so high the previous years was you're paying tax on wheeling, which now that's part of the park system, we have to pay taxes on that.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Line 189, community promotions. Drop that to 0. Or drop it 600 to 0. Sorry about that. Line 198, consumers energy, Parmley Park. We're thinking we can drop that by 500. That'll leave you a $500. And the biggie, line 219, capital outlay. To make this work, we'll have to drop that by 55,000. These adjustments will drop you 72,700, which will bring you, your fund balance will be 47%, or just about 6 months of your total expenditures. Those are my thoughts.
Bob, line 193, what all's in that recreation commission for 25 grand?
Community ed.
Yep.
Oh, you see it's community ed, but what all's in that for that 25? Great contribution or?
Yeah,
Let
we don't know what my explanation that I've gotten when I asked is that that's a partnership fee. That we give that to them in good faith because they use our parks.
I went to the GL detail. Oh, go ahead.
I don't know what the future of community ed is. I've heard rumblings, but until we have heard more concrete as far as what they're going to do, we elected to leave that in there.
Go ahead, Bob. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say that is a one-time check every year for the 25,000.
A big part of this is digging out of the $69,000 hole that we were put in apparently last year. If I understand correctly, the last park board went and took $69,000 out of our fund and spent it across the board. And now we're having to try to fill that back in. We've also wondered where we're also looking into it does from the sale of the pocket park. We can't seem to find that come across any of the balance sheets from the last couple of years. And we're also looking for the donation made from the Wheeler family. We haven't been able to find that on the balance sheets either. So we're trying to find out where all that went.
We found that, the contribution from the Wheeler family, we gave it to Carol.
Oh, Carol was the one today who told me that she was still looking for it. So
no, we gave her that information.
Yep. That's line 158. column I, $60,000.
Okay. Okay. And then Bob, is the sale, that 40,000 is the sale of the Pocket Park 157?
No, that was just a budgeted amount. I don't actually see any,
Sale of fixed assets?
yep, I don't see the money actually going in on that line.
Oh, okay. Okay. And I know there's still money sitting on, we're still in the process of selling that other park as well, so. But I don't know what else you need from me to move forward.
Okay. Any other questions on the park? Thank you, Chaz.
Thank you.
Should we wait for Paul before we continue? Yep, we'll hang tight.
Bob, what does that put their fund balance at then?
It'll put their fund balance at about $100,693. They still, even with these changes, they're still spending $9,470 more than they're receiving.
Is that like on the top of page 5 in the final budget line? I see the end fund balance and beginning fund balance numbers
Yes,
as if that was a a fund balance contribution or however we put it.
yes.
Is that happening there, or because there's no like line to go with it? So I didn't know if that was just there for like notes sake or if that's actually factored in.
Right. What it is, if I'm understanding this correctly, you're talking about line 236, beginning fund balance?
Yeah, which is those numbers are both on line 145 and 146 in the budget. Like they're at the top in revenue, but not in revenue. And it almost looks like they're there for note's sake.
Oh, yes. I was just doing notes. You're absolutely correct.
That's what I assumed. So I didn't know.
Yep.
Is that
Those can be deleted.
is
I'm
that
gonna
what
delete
they're- so that's what I didn't know if that was last year's numbers and they were trying to take that 110 into this fiscal, or is that
Can you guys hear me now? Okay.
yeah?
Yeah, my connection's goofing up on me. Sorry about that.
Bad internet out in the mountains.
Yep.
So-
To answer your question, that 110,163, that would be this year's ending fund balance if everything followed to the budget exactly. So obviously we have more revenue and more expenses coming in this year, but our budget expects it to be 110,163.
So would that be 70 grand higher then with the adjustments that we just made?
Well, that 110,000, because it's the ending balance, that carries over as the beginning balance of this year.
Okay. Yes.
Now what we do is we take the revenue minus the expenses. 206,740. That's on line 233. Total revenue.
Yep.
Total expenses is 216,000. So they're over.
So you're
Yep.
keeping the beginning fund balance, and so that ending it would be effectively 70 something right there. So that's what's getting it back up to about 100. Okay, I got you.
Yep.
So did anybody, I don't know if I expected, I didn't know if he was going to talk about it. So they're going to address the concrete walkway or whatever walkway they're just looking at that completely separately. Does anybody know?
I assumed we were pulling it off totally until next fiscal year, until we can get that.
That's what it looks like. That's what I just wanted. Okay.
Yeah, because even asphalt, you're looking at 100 plus thousand easily.
Yeah, I
And
thought.
if the goal is, and if the goal they're doing it is to make it ADA compliant, you know what I mean? There's so much more work to do. A study needs to be done, and we don't have time to put monies in this fiscal year unless we're just throwing darts at a wall to budget for it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought we addressed pushing it.
Yeah. So I think we just pull it out, let them do some studies, and then next fiscal year. I mean, so
They might also, I'm not sure if they have interest or might need assistance in possibly looking into future millages to help assist too, if that's an option.
They should. They really should.
Okay to move on.
yes, sir.
Let's go down to the next change. It'll be further down in the spreadsheet, way down.
Bob,
Yes,
are we in the general fund or other funds?
other funds.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that we weren't.
I'm sorry. Okay, let's go down to, I think it's around page 30. We'll start with the Road Capital Improvement Fund. Which should be line 1041. I think it's page 30. Paul, this is the current year. I highlighted that 160,000. You
Yep.
sent me that request to pull it out of roads, move it into road capital improvement.
Yep.
We're going to fund that. So it's been funded.
Good. So just so the board knows, it's a little goofy. We just approved this job, but it's probably not going to be done in this fiscal year. Might be done in next fiscal year. Either way, putting it into this fund, it doesn't matter what happens. It's in the fund. So we don't have to worry about it coming out of next fiscal year. Fund. So we'll pull it out of that whenever we need it.
The very next fund is Fund 446, Township Improvement Revolving Fund. That's at line 1073. What we're going to do is we're going to fund this 130,000. Of that, 5,000 is for the planning plotter. We'll take 125,000 out of the general fund to fund the Township Improvement Revolving Fund. At that point, we'll have 125,000 to do some planning, whether you want how much to go in buildings, how much to go in equipment, vehicles, dump truck, whatever your thoughts might be. We can do some long-term planning. That necessarily doesn't have to be done tonight, but it's just letting you know it'll be funded. Those were all the changes that I had.
Okay, I got a couple things, Bob. The assessing department. We had money in seasonal Next fiscal year,
Oh, let's go back. What line is that? Page line?
gosh, I don't know.
I think it's,
It's in the 230s range, I
Yep.
think.
line 231.
Okay. So we had money in there for seasonal. I don't know if you already changed it, Bob, but
I have not.
we won't need money in there for seasonal for next fiscal year.
Okay.
Currently, right now, we do have a seasonal employee, but we're taking applications, and whoever it is going to be a part-time employee permanently. So that should happen in the next few board meetings. But next fiscal year, that'll be all part-time dollars.
Okay.
So, and then you've got, I don't know how the board feels. I've got on the agenda to bump Teresa up to 45,000. That would change that fund as well. So if we want to adjust for that.
How much of adjustment would you like me to make?
Well, she's currently, I think, at a salary of 39,000. She would be going to 45. That would be $6,000.
Okay.
Fund. So pretty much you just take the 25,000 and move it to,
Yep, I'll move 25,361, move that to part-time. I'm going to add 6,000 to appraiser salaries.
Okay. And then I just wanted to discuss briefly, I sent out an email to Krista, and I talked to Bob about it. As far as restricted funds, I just want the board to know and to be clear on, do we have any CDs or funds that aren't restricted, that aren't reserved for sewer or for whatever? Do we have any funds, CDs that are just?
No, all the money that it was taken from the accounts. It was the water fund. It was O&M. So unfortunately, they are restricted. I did talk to our rep from UBS, and we do have some monies that are coming due this year, next year, over the next 4 years. But most of that money, I'd say at least 80% of that money is restricted funds.
Okay. And then Bob, if you wanted to go over our the discussion we had about, well, I always called it the rainy day fund, but you have a different term for it, but there's roughly 2.3 million in that. And that does not include the 700,000 for the fire station.
Right. With the adjustments we made today, the unrestricted fund balance will be $2,461,000. That is approximately 52% of our annual expenditures that we budgeted for.
And that doesn't include the $700,000. That's
right. It does not include. Right. So here's the restricted funds. We have some for indigent residents, which is about 6,000. So the debt retirement, which is the 700,000, and we also have building inspection department. What that is, when they move the building inspection department to the general fund, if they make a profit, we have to hold that money and restrict it just for building inspection department. And that's around, I think, 300,000.
So we've always been told, this board has always been told from MTA and from our last finance guy, we need roughly $1.5 million. That was our number that we've always looked at. And Bob's looking at more of a percentage. And that's where he's coming up with the 2.4. Personally, I think that's too much money. I would like to see us pay off the fire department, but If the board agrees and we want to leave that much money in there and go for the percentage, I'm okay with it. But, Krista,
So Trudy and I and Bob, we did look at paying off the fire department. The only issue with that is there is, if you pay it off before 5 years, there is a penalty. If you don't pay it before the 5 years, you don't have a prepayment penalty. So if we paid it off early, we have to pay a penalty.
do you know what the penalty is?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, I just would be curious if it's 5,000 or 100,000 because the interest we're going to pay in 5 years, which far surpass. You know what I mean? It's worth looking into. Okay. So I just wanted everybody to know kind of where we're at because it's been all over the map, at least the last few years of what we actually had in the reserves or, fund balance. So, other than that, we did change the police fund a little bit, not much, Bob, though, correct? We did end up changing that a tad.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Can we go back?
I forgot to talk about something. We are going to need to bump up the parking lot fund, or where we had that $5,000 in. So I was at Station 3, and I've had discussions with Chief. I even got a quote from the guy that did the work last year, Monroe Asphalt. That parking lot at Station 3 is shifting. And he's recommending we redo it at a cost of $9,000. I'd like to get another opinion on that to see if it can be salvaged in the back. But I think we should budget a minimum of $10,000 extra in that pavement fund because his parking lot is going to need to be addressed. I don't know if it's a change in how heavy that equipment is, that new ladder truck burning on it. That's a lot of weight on that. Maybe we need to look at reinforcing the parking lot. But either way, we need to put more money in that fund, Bob. Sorry about that.
Yep.
I had it written down here and forgot to bring it up.
Yep. What fund specifically are you talking about? I'm looking.
We had a fund for parking lot maintenance. I believe that's what it was called. There was 5,000 in it. It was for some of the culverts that are going bad. What's that? Did somebody say something?
Is it in line 323 under capital outlay paving parking? Under 265 buildings and grounds?
Yep, that'd be a great place for it. Thank you.
Perfect. We need to add 10 grand to that.
10 grand has been added.
Other than that, that's all I have.
Can we go back to the Township Improvement Revolving Fund? That's page 31 in other funds. I'm trying to figure this out and just make sure that that's all clarified. So looking at, I don't have balance sheets with me. The 50,000 and the 25,000 that we put in there, it says in the revolving fund that we spent that in this current fiscal.
That is correct.
How did we spend that?
Let me go take a look here. I can tell you.
Is the whole purpose of
that whole section came out from Fund 101 to Fund 446. We transferred the contribution and the expense at the same time. So that came from Fund 101. Let me see. I think that came from buildings and grounds.
because we should have an end fund balance in here. That should be up to, if we're putting in 130. That's why I don't understand it. It
Yep.
says are we putting in 75 or are we putting in 125?
Well, we're putting in 130, but of that 135,000 of it is from the planning department.
Yeah.
125,000 is just a plain contribution from the general fund.
So I was, I don't know, and I'll hear if anybody else has other opinions. My what I was looking for is to just keep that same 50 and 25. I would have been more than happy with that. I'm fine with putting 125, but I was more than and that is on page 25 in the general fund, which is the capital improvement plan department, that I would have been more than happy with putting another 75, which would give you 50 and 25. But like, if you guys want to put 125, I'm more than happy with that. But either way, I feel that where is our 75 grand that we finally got put in there last year? Why is that not accumulating?
Well,
That should not have been spent. That should not have been spent anywhere.
I think right now it shows that it's not carrying over because it wasn't originally in the budget before. And when we did bring it over, it showed that we're expecting to spend it. So that's why it shows a zero ending fund balance. But as you can see, the current spending still has $18,000 that hasn't been spent.
Why does it have? Yeah, so it shouldn't have any. Shouldn't have any spent.
Yeah,
should
I
have
can
been-
go back and
No money spent out of that. That should have been the 75 grand put in there.
I think that 50,000 that was spent, it carried over when we did the transfer. It already had $50,000 in spending when we transferred it. When it came from the buildings and grounds, I think it was actually from prior year spending that didn't happen until this year. So that's why that was there.
Hey, Bob, at this point, with everything we've done, where are we sitting?
Right now we're sitting, let me go back to the general fund, the bottom of the page. We are going to have revenue that exceeds expenses by $228,696. And that includes the transfer of $125,000 to the Township Improvement Revolving Fund.
Wow, that's awesome. So my question to the board is Bob and I talked a little bit. We have some areas where we can do a few things, and one of them is the assessing vehicles are getting old and in rough shape. Do we budget a little bit of money for those? Dennis Kohler's truck is getting old, having some issues. Do we have some areas where we want to stick some money? Do we want to stick more money? There's some things going on, Joe, that you and Todd probably aren't too aware of, like the maintenance building. We don't own that building. The drain commissioner office does. We lease it, but we're supposed to maintain that building. It's in rough shape. It could stand sticking $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 into it, probably. I think we got a quote of $160,000 a few years ago just for the front part when the Lions Den had it. We've talked about moving out of that building and giving it back to the maintenance or to the drain commissioner, and then building a shop behind Township Hall in the grassy area. So there's a lot of things that we can do, or we stick more money into capital improvement. We can look at do investigations for doing solar at the library. Solar's come a long way, so we can save more money down the road. So just the talks we had, Bob, I think I was missing something else. I know I mentioned vehicles, but what else did we talk about?
Well, we got a plan for a new roof for this building in the next 5-10 years. Let's see. The only other thing was possibly a dump truck. Oh, police vehicle. You said something about a police vehicle?
Well, my thought is Trudy, I'm not sure if we want to make a phone call to the police department to see what the mileage is of all of the vehicles we have now. You know, if we got one that's got 30,000, 40,000 miles next year when it gets 60, we could take that and put it in assessing and budget for a new vehicle for the sheriff's department. You know, just a thought there. Mr. Steiner, do you have something?
Yeah. Look, Trudy looked like she was going to answer you real quick, though.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I can do that. I can call the sheriff's department and just get the mileage of the cars right now to see where we're at.
Okay.
So I was just going to jump back to, we talked about the maintenance building. Looks like Paul's froze again. Oh, no, okay. Paul, I know you and Paul Francis, ago had talked to Drain Commission, I believe. And we talked about ideas of, do we take it? Do we turn it back? Maybe we need to resurrect that conversation again and try to make a decision, either stay there and do something with that property or turn it back and leave.
The real problem, though, Mr. Steiner, is the maintenance building's in the wrong spot.
Right.
You know, it really shouldn't be in our beautiful downtown area. You know what I mean? Same thing, we've had discussions with South County Water about moving the water to the South County's building. You know, but the conversations we had, the Drain Commission office wasn't willing to just give us the building. From the conversations we had. Now we can revisit that. I'm not sure why they don't want to give it to us, but I don't know if it's the best idea to stick $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 into a building that we don't own.
No, not at all. And I agree, that's not the right place for it. And I just made the comment of which way we go. And I don't think we need to stay there when we can do a lot better if we did put something behind Township Hall as our true maintenance building.
Yeah, and I mean, you could literally stick up a pre-engineered metal building with insulated panels for under $200,000 with floor and everything. I mean, you know, we have to stick some money into it to get it all set up with wire and, you know, oxygen and gas and the whole bit, heating and air. I mean, you'd probably have around, I don't know, $300,000 into the project, but it's better than sticking it into an old building downtown. I think we should give it to the Drain Commission and let them sell it.
Right.
Or doze it.
I
think it's contaminated site. More than likely, because it's got gas tanks still in the ground or fuel tanks. You know, so I just think it's. I don't know. I could spark the conversations up again, but
yeah, for that reason, we don't want to own it if there's that kind of liability with it either. We don't want to own it even for free at that point.
I mean, typically the MDQ will, you know, like the Lillian Cabinets building there, they cleaned it up on the state's dime. But, you know, it can be some liability, that's for sure.
Right.
So, yeah, just some things to kick around. I think it's really, or we just take that extra money and let it go to the general fund and you know, but I am having some conversations with First Solar about a solar field on top of the library just to kind of get an idea of the paybacks there. I did a study 4 years ago and it wasn't, and they assured me it is now. So we are looking at something like that. So if there's something we can get our hands on that's got a 3 to 5 year payback and, you know, get our bills down for the future there, I'll bring it to the board.
Hey, does it make sense to, with 200 some thousand, does it make sense to take 100,000 and put that in an unrestricted fund CD?
I don't know. That'd be up to Krista. I don't know what her thoughts are that, but
We can look into that. I can call the bank and see what they, you know, what kind of rates they have.
It may or may not be worth it, but it's maybe worth investigating.
Okay.
That still leaves you 180. Okay.
So back to page 31 of other funds, that money should not have got spent. There should be $75,000. We didn't put $50,000 into buildings, and we didn't put.
I think it was spent
Not
because
spent.
I'll pull you the detail. But when we pulled that over from Fund 260 or Department 265 Buildings and Grounds,
Pulled what over?
that 50,000 for the capital outlay buildings, that already had 50,000 spent in it from the prior year that didn't have, it wasn't funded.
Hey, Craig, can't we make it easy and just replace the money that was taken out of it? And then some with the extra money we have?
I mean,
And I get what you're saying. It shouldn't have been spent, you know, I
might-
think,
yeah.
you know, but it was, so let's just replace it. And
Because I'd like to see that the whole point of the whole thing is to let money accumulate there.
correct.
That's why I made a big deal about it, about money for those the buildings that we're already dealing with, not having that money come out of there. Is the entire purpose of that is to let that money accumulate. So when, like we were just talking, the couple of items you just talked about, a new roof on this building, that's what that money's for. That money's not for regular, just things that were already happening and just for day-to-day purposes. That's for planned use. So yes, I would think that would be better than not if that's the easier way to do it, to put another, even
I mean,
another 50,000.
It doesn't hurt to stick the money in there. It's not, I mean, we're not throwing it out the window. We're saving for projects.
Well, let's let Bob investigate that, because I don't think it was truly spent. So let's let Bob dig into the details and tell us what really.
Okay.
Yep. I think what I've been thinking about, what it was is the actual spending on the fire department when they rehabbed it. It carried over to this fiscal year.
Yeah, I think you brought
That's
that
what
up.
that was.
You brought that up last time.
Yeah, but I will confirm that.
All right. Is there anything else?
Paul, real quick, I know you said this before. I definitely would like to see what we would save in interest on payoff on the fire station versus what the penalty is. I think that is something I really want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, if we save 100,000 in interest and the penalty's 20,000, we're still 80,000 ahead. And I'm just throwing those as example numbers. I have no idea what they are, but I definitely want to see that.
I can get that to you guys.
George, do you have any public comment? Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up, or?
Paul, you
So-
were
Go
you were
ahead.
talking about some monies, what we wanted to do with them. Is there, have you put together a wish list or something you think that we can do, or because I agree, we need to put some of that money back into, fixing things up, whether or not we need some new cars or something like that.
Bob had made a good comment, and I don't know how the board, if we're there yet, but electric vehicles for assessing. I don't know if we would get our money out of them or not. Definitely our vehicles are aged. Like the ordinance department, in my opinion, should be good for a while with their vehicles. But assessing, I mean, we definitely need to look at replacing, sell both of those older vehicles and replace it with something that's going to last, that's fuel efficient. But yeah, I mean, we've got our buildings, all of our buildings. I mean, our historical building, I don't know if you guys have been there, off Crab and Stern. That thing is in rough shape. I think us saving for a new maintenance building is a good idea. That building is not efficient. It is not LED. It's everything bad over there. I mean, it's eventually going to need some money. And that's part of our agreement, our contract, that we maintain it. So I think just those few things you know, it will get us a long way down the road. Okay. Good evening. Go ahead and state your name and address.
Gail Kane, 1056 West Temperance. Just real quick, May 9th through the 15th is Police Week. So we need to keep that at mind, and because our township meeting isn't on time, we don't know about it. My question is the final budget. Do the residents get a public hearing? Does the board approve this? What is the next step in this? And I have a lot of other questions, but I only get 2 minutes. So my basic comment is this: we have extra money. I think we need to just slow down, take a deep breath. I hear all kinds of agendas being put out there. I think we really need to slow down here. We had COVID happen, and we've not caught up from that yet. And if anything, I believe we need to give our parks some more money then if we have all this excess. And we still have the COVID monies that have to be determined, and hopefully there'll be a group of people that will make a determination on that. But I really think we need to just stop, take a deep breath, and slow down. We don't have to spend this. This idea that I got all this money in my hand and it runs through because it's not your own money needs to stop. We have to use our heads. We have to plan for the unexpected. It doesn't have to be spent tomorrow. So that's just my take on it. Keep up the good work. That's all. Good night.
Thank you for the comments. Have a great night. George, any more callers? Okay. Anybody else have anything for Bob or any more comments?
Yeah, I do. I got a couple things. Page 13 of other. I don't remember. I'm just like going through just last second and just seeing what else I have that hasn't been addressed. Page 13 of other, that the revenue from the water fund down $25,000 or $26,000. Do we just to have an answer on that, I guess?
Well, we no longer collect the tap-in fees. So we turn that over to South County Water. So that's probably where you're seeing a change there.
Yeah, but that 26,000 is actually in the interest savings line. It's not a straight revenue.
It's going to be from all the money that we spent on SADs that we're not.
Right.
We used to have $3 million sitting there that was collecting a lot of interest, so we don't now. That's probably where that is.
Look at the end fund balance along the bottom. It's not significant. They're different, but they're not significant. What your end fund balance is along there, your 2.4.
Bob, I think that number isn't like that money's technically not there, right? Because it's loaned out on SADs, correct?
I'd have to pull the balance sheet to figure out exactly where the money is, but the money is there. It's either there in cash or in receivables. And yes, I will look to see exactly why that interest rate or the interest drops so significantly.
Another similar question was page 33 in sewer O&M. The line 1,157 was down 65,000. And I guess that was just really high last year.
We spent quite a bit of money out of our rainy day fund out of there too. That was saved up for a lot of years on the project. Krista, go ahead.
My question for you is, you have county next to that. Is that money like the savings for the county? He's talking about the 65,000. I'm just verifying. One says township or with the replacement savings, and then debt savings and depreciation, and then DTY for county.
Yeah, I'll have to look in there. From what I'm looking on the spreadsheet, was it 2 years ago, we had $115,000 in interest and nothing since then. So I'm wondering if that 115,000 was a misposting from the year of 2019. That's my guess. That's why we're seeing the big drop.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, and
Maybe-
I wonder if
maybe-
you're.
Yeah, maybe it was supposed to be 15 back then instead of 115.
I can do a quick query right now to see if I can get more information.
And then
It appears to be a misposting. The 115,000 should not be there.
did we have a way, or I don't know if that was ever resolved, to track if we're going to split up percentages of different wages, such as finance manager, deputy treasurer, I even like maintenance, which is not, but would make sense too. Do we have any process, and have we, like Bob and I had talked about those being split, that I'm not like necessarily against it if it makes sense. What I would be against is arbitrary percentages. So do we have a way to actually track the percentage that the finance manager is spending in these other departments? Same thing with deputy treasurer. And like I said, I don't know. I vaguely remember if Paul had said something about tracking maintenance for cemetery. Like if we would split a percentage of their a percentage of their wages through cemetery or not. So I didn't know if that was something I had in my notes that I remember like that we've discussed, but do we have anything set up for that? To be able to track that, or how are we going to do that? Because having arbitrary percentages, just say, I think they were 40% there, is foolish. I don't think it doesn't need to be tracked constantly or every year or anything, but you do enough searching to find a answer. Nobody even knows why it's split like that. And so it was done at some time. They figured that was a good idea. So they did it. So
We're going to be doing a time study for the maintenance.
Okay.
This to be able to separate the cemeteries and stuff. We don't even necessarily have to. I'm just saying we're going to figure out how much the cemeteries are costing us in maintenance, and with how much time they spend over there. But Krista, sorry.
No, that's all right. I can tell you that the deputy treasurer, she spends about half her time on taxes and on sewer. Because I have a utilities clerk, one person, if she were to do it all, she would not be able to handle it. So that's why.
So it's 50-50?
I don't know what her percentage is, but I know that she spends about half her time with sewer. Anytime someone comes to the counter, it's split up. We don't make our utilities clerk go and wait on every single person who has sewer or water. It's each person pulls their own weight in that department. So, that's why.
Well, that's fine. That's what I'm saying. We got to know if it's 50-50 and it actually is 50-50, then it should be distributed 50-50.
Right.
And if it's the same thing, however that's done, it should be done accurately so that we're actually tracking it properly. Yeah.
I don't know how the Treasury's Department would do that, to be honest with you. They're seeing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people a week. They literally have to write down after they speak with each person and track that time. For me, tracking maintenance would be totally different from them. I'm not saying they couldn't do it. It'd be very difficult for them to try to track.
And very time consuming. We'd be spending almost as much time tracking as we would be waiting on people. If that makes sense.
Do you have anything else you want to add to it, Craig? But definitely, I'm going to be tracking all of our stuff so we can, even just so we can separate to see what areas cost us. Because, you know, if our cemeteries are costing us $900 to open them up and close them, and we're only charging $650, we need to look at it as a board. And I don't know if that's totally accurate, but you got to figure as much time and money and maintenance and on all of our dump trucks that we spend in the cemeteries. I got a feeling that we're not charging enough to maintain them properly. So, okay. Anybody else have anything else? Okay. No. All right. Are we planning another budget meeting, or are we just going to put this on the agenda, Mr. Berger?
We have one set up. It's up to the board if you want us to have another one or just go straight to the public hearing. If the board feels we need another one.
I would think we're pretty confident in going straight to the public hearing. Personally, I agree with what the caller said about the parks needing funding, but I think they need a year to really learn the finances, learn what goes on in these parks, learn the projects, understand the whole operations of it, and then let's revisit it next year. There's a lot going on, a lot happening. I don't know if it's going to help the cause to just throw a bunch of money at it. That's my thoughts. I don't know if the board kind of shares that, but, you know, studies need to be done. The basketball hoops and fixing some of the stuff that needs fixed. But, you know, the part of the problem is I don't think this board can afford to fully fund the park system and maintain it the way it needs to be maintained, and maintain the buildings and grounds and everything that we have. And, you know, there has been talks of a millage. I mean, it's, you know, the park system costs a lot of money. And if it's going to need to be maintained properly, at some point, there's going to be monies is going to have to be generated at some point. You know, so those are just my thoughts. All right. Board comments, buddy?
Can we put the 50 grand into the revolving fund? 50 more? If we're going to leave the, I feel like it lost 50 as is. I would like that in there.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Okay, I'm making the changes now.
Anybody have any board comments?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, no more public comment, George?
Did we decide, are we going to the public hearing?
I think we should just go straight to the public hearing. I mean, there's no point in getting together for another meeting. I mean, we have about 2 minutes worth of discussions. So
And we can discuss that at the public hearing.
Yeah. I think we got the main portion of it handled. The board's done a good job getting a balanced budget together, which is the first time we've had and since I've been here. You know, so that's awesome. Bob, thanks again for everything and your hard work. And if nobody has any further questions or comments, we stand adjourned.
Great job.